I mean, things open up in ways that you can't predict because you started doing something.
And because you have legitimate passion for what you're doing, that resonates with people that experience that. Yeah. If they I mean, I can't tell you how many artists that I've discovered online just through Instagram or through Twitter. Like,
it's a creative revolution.
Yes, in an amazing way. And I hope, and I think there's way more creative people out there than we realize.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And I think they would love to have some sort of an opportunity to do something like that, and especially like an artist. Someone who's an artist, man, there's never been a better time to be an artist because you could showcase your work. And look, if you send me something cool and, send it to me on Twitter, and I'll fucking retweet it.
Totally.
I retweet things all the time. And all that takes is someone else has to see that and say, wow, that's amazing. And then it just propagates to all these different people's Instagram feeds and all these people's Twitter feeds. And next thing you know, you've got a business and you're up and running. And it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be quick.
But the job you're doing now ain't easy or quick. The soul-killing one ain't easy or quick either.
But people think like, oh, how long is that going to take? Oh, but when you start out doing a podcast, well, I only got 10 downloads. Well, that's how it works. I think here's an important thing too. Failure is important.
It is important.
I think failure teaches you things that you don't learn from success. I think failure gives you an opportunity for self-examination and also gives you a feeling that is very uncomfortable. And that very uncomfortable feeling helps you grow. That when you feel like shit, you screw something up. Like when I've had bad podcasts, my podcast has always gotten better afterwards. When I've had bad stand-up sets, I've always gotten better after that because those bad sets motivate you. They give you a perspective like, hey, here's some clear examples of where you fucked up.
Yeah, what not to do.
Yeah, don't look at these failures as like proof that you suck. Look at them as opportunities for growth. Look at them as opportunities to be motivated to do better. And
Winston Churchill had a line about reading quotes, about how inspirational reading famous quotes were. And he says they motivate you from a number of different ways, including the idea that, you think it's just you, or you think that these people who did so well were so incredibly gifted or privileged from the get-go. And when you realize, no, they're more like me than I think, that becomes inspirational, right? You telling your audience this is inspirational. You don't want to hear, go back to school, go do this work. No, but if you hate your job, that is like nature telling you to try something different. And it's motivating because the motivation is you might not have to do that soul-killing job anymore.
Well, if you look at someone who's doing really well, like say if you focus on like Kevin Hart or someone like that, some very famous and successful comedian, all you see is him now flying around private jets, wearing a new pair of sneakers every day, driving around in Bentleys. You just see that. You don't see him being a young kid in Philadelphia, going to open mic nights, scratching and clawing,
MC Hammer
jokes.
Selling the tapes out of the hatchback.
All that stuff, man. There's a path, and we think of people like, you see an old person walking down the street, you go, oh, that person's always been an old person. No, that was a baby. That was a baby that became a 90-year-old man. There's a progression that you're not witness to. You don't see it. And that takes place in everything. It takes place in authors. It takes place in comedians and musicians. There is a starting point, and then with time and focus, and as long as you reevaluate and reassess and constantly objectively look at what you're doing and then pursue it with passion and focus, you get better at things. I think there's a certain amount that you have to do that's boring, right? There's a certain amount of the hard work.
Even in your business that you like.
Sure, yeah. Learning grammar, learning language. A certain amount of that stuff is fucking boring. Once you get past that boring shit and you have a base understanding of how to communicate, how to add, how to count, how to multiply, how government works, all these different things that you should have sort of a base understanding of, then it's like everyone has a different personality. They have different interests, different things that they would be really satisfied pursuing. That's not encouraged. And the people that I know that get to do what they want to do for a living, it's not like their lives are completely happy. Everybody's going to face problems, no matter who you are.
Absolutely. What did it was a Kanye West who said, do rich people have problems or just different problems? I mean, it's everybody's got these challenges. So as I go into my 50s now, I'm sitting here going, energy is so under-talked about.
Yeah.
The ability to, like my buddy who wrote me and said, I feel like I screwed up my life. I didn't take enough chances. I played it safe and now I'm so unhappy. He says, and I just can't motivate myself at 50 years old anymore, energy-wise, to start over. Energy is underrepresented.
Well, tell that guy he's got to fix his health.
I knew you were going to say that.
That's what it is. Your health is your engine.
Yeah,
your
it is.
health is literally the chassis, the tires, the brakes, the engine of your vehicle that you move through this life with. And too many people don't pay attention to it.
The lack of energy is a killer, and as you get older especially.
It's not just that. It changes your ability to do things. If you don't have energy, not only will you not have the energy to pursue things, but you won't be able to do them the same way. If you have energy and enthusiasm and say like you're healthy and you want to write a book, you're going to have thoughts that'll come into your mind that won't come into your mind if you're exhausted.
Agreed.
And that's fucking huge. That's huge for anything you're trying to pursue, whether we're talking about furniture making, whether we're talking about being an author, whatever it is.
Let's talk about ideas for a minute, because I think that's another one. Folks, what really is going to make you unique sometimes is the way your brain works differently than anyone's brain who's ever existed on the planet. That's valuable right there. Write down what comes out of the brain. Because
we'll
you
capture those things.
Yes,
because
capture
if you don't
them.
capture them, they will slip away.
And sometimes the idea isn't good until the second half arrives later, right? So idea number 1's in your book from 5 years ago. Idea number 2 that finally completes that idea arrives later. I mean, I had a friend who was so creative, and he said he gets the best ideas at night. So he just turns on the light at the side of the table, writes it down in the book, and by morning there's another idea down there.
Yeah.
And quantity has a quality all its own, and sometimes a book filled with interesting ideas out of your individual unique head will help you later on. So write them down.
Yeah, you have
There's no
to.
downside.
I have an app on my phone where I can just, the Notes app. You ever use that?
Sure,
where
sure.
it has a little microphone.
It's filled with
I
stuff.
talk into that thing.
I do too.
And it dictates it really almost perfectly. So I'll have an idea and I'll just be driving down the road. I just press that button. I start talking into it and then I put it down. I got it. Like I got that one. I captured it. And then the motivation and the momentum of these ideas can lead to enthusiasm.
And you attract other people who can add. And I mean, this is what we said about like you start your website and you just do it. Because things, once you push the verb of living manages to create ripples and get a little metaphysical here, but ripples in time in front of you that open up possibilities. And because someone may, if you only have one podcast listener, but that podcast listener is like, wow, that's great, I'm gonna, and gets a hold of you, and your life goes off in another different direction. But you have to try. You have to try.